I'm going to give brief introductions for our panelists. You maybe saw their bios on our website, but just to remind you, in my upper left, I see Elizabeth Laukka, is how she says her last name. She has more than 15 years experience with executive search in the Twin Cities marketing communications industry. She works to recruit top junior to senior level talent in advertising, digital marketing, and public relations. And I thought this was interesting for referrals and networking, which we're going to talk about today. She identifies qualified candidates. Some of her clients include Call McCoy, Lynn Hands Foy, Caribou Coffee, JT Mega, Preston Spire, among others. Her experience includes recruiting manager. She spent several years at Call McCoy and Exponent. Also worked in human resources at Ameriprise and account management with Fallon. She is a graduate of St. Olaf in Northfield. Elizabeth, I don't know if I shared this with you. I grew up in Lakeville.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
When I was in high
Nice
school,
area.
when I was in high school, my parents suggested I apply to Carleton. I was like, oh, Northfield, too close, too close. So I went all the way out to DC, and what I discovered there is like, I would have been just fine here in the Twin Cities, but you know, teenagers, what do we know?
Yes.
And I thought this was interesting too, just what she studied, BS in history. I'm terrible at history, so I'm trying to make up for lost time through reading and other self-education. With an emphasis in Spanish, studied abroad in South America, Europe, Asia, so fun, and earned credits toward her master's in industrial relations from University of Minnesota. In 2020, we all know what happened in 2020. She created the successful weekly Minnesota Marketing Careers Job Share, focused on Minnesota-based and remote opportunities, which has grown to several thousand subscribers. And in case anyone is in the market for these types of services, besides talent recruiting services, she offers a resume, LinkedIn, career strategy audit, and review session to candidates with an entry level and student discount for these services if we have any students today. And so her website is just her name, elizabethlauka.com. Yay, Elizabeth.
Thanks, Leah.
Yeah. And David, so excited to have David here. Before I get to his professional bio, I met David when we did some work, when Padilla did some work for MEDA, which is the Metropolitan Economic Development Association. It's a local nonprofit that is trying to close the economic gap through entrepreneurship for people of color. So we did the Meet $1 Million Challenge several times. David was our MC. And now, full disclosure, he's part of Padilla's DEI collective. So when Katie was looking for panelists, I said, hey, how about David? So David, thank you so much for being here. He serves as the managing principal at the DEJ Group, the firm he established amidst the pandemic era with a strategic focus on enhancing diversity in the workforce. The DEJ Group offers executive coaching, training services designed to elevate minority business leaders and professionals. He's got a corporate career spanning over a quarter of a century, complemented by 18 years of teaching as an adjunct professor. And he's a respected authority in the realms of IT, project management, entrepreneurship, and recruiting. Now I need to turn the page because there's so much good stuff to say about these people. David's super smart too, you guys. Bachelor of Science degree in electrical engineering from North Carolina A&T State University, MBA from the Carlson School, MAHRM. I'm assuming, David, that's a master's in human resource management. Did I interpret those letters correctly? He's going to check his degree on the wall.
Yeah, master's of arts.
From Concordia University in St. Paul. And his professional journey is also marked by contributions to several large corporations in the Twin Cities area, including Anderson Windows, Be the Match, and Best Buy. So David, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the opportunity. And
y'all, it's up to you. If you want to be on screen, love to see your beautiful faces. If you're eating breakfast, that's okay. You go ahead and do that. So Elizabeth, I'm going to start with you. And I know you put together a wonderful handout for this group. Katie was kind enough to prepare some questions for me. And as I reviewed them this morning, Elizabeth, I thought, oh my gosh, Elizabeth checks a bunch of these boxes on her handout. So the first question was, when advising job seekers, how do you balance helping them present their experience in the best light while also encouraging them to develop skills that point toward the future? And it's up to you if you just want to answer the question or if you want to share your screen. But I thought there was a lot of good information in your handout.
So my advice as a recruiter is, you know, your resume and your LinkedIn are really everything nowadays, and how you present yourself, and it's your branding and marketing piece. So if, let's say, your current title is public relations coordinator, but you're applying for a public relations strategist job title, in your upper summary of your resume and LinkedIn profile, you know, even though your official title is coordinator, it's okay to say public relations strategist with 2+ years experience, seeking new role in, electronics company, or whatever it might be. So like you're leading the reader with your wording, and you're not misrepresenting yourself, because you are a strategist, even though a title right now might be coordinator. So what I say with resumes and LinkedIn is, and maybe I'm jumping in too much here, but most large and medium-sized companies use AI and automatic tracking systems and look for at least 10 to 20 words, and they have to be exactly mirrored back. Otherwise you are filtered out. And same thing with me as a personal recruiter. I do every search I start with on LinkedIn. And I do a 10-word keyword search, and any profile that fits that, rises to the top. So if you have verbiage in your upfront summary that says public relations strategist, you'll come to the top. Whereas if you have, let's say, public relations coordinator, I may not see it.
Great.
If I'm answering the question, Leah?
Yes, no, that's wonderful. David, I want to make sure we get the chance to hear from you as well. And, when I introduced Elizabeth, she said one of the ways she finds candidates is through networking. So, maybe you could speak to that a little bit. Like, what's one key piece of advice you would give someone early in their career to help them create a strong foundation and network?
That is such a great question. What I'd like to do, I'll give you the maybe 60-second version of what I'm gonna drop in the chat here. I actually wrote a guide on this last week based on a post that I made. I did a 60-second course on networking, and I put the video on LinkedIn. So if you follow me on LinkedIn, you might have seen it. But in the chat, I put a link to the actual guide. I only ask for an email, and I don't even use my email list. So, but in that guide, I use a 4-stage framework. I call it, so it's easy to remember, seed, feed, weed, then need your network. So the first thing I say is seed your network. How do you seed your network? If you treat your network like a garden or plant or something like that, well, you plant seeds. So without really getting into it too deep, you basically set yourself up for opportunities down the road by planting seeds. How do you plant seeds? You try to reach out to people who are interested in the same things you're interested in and make connections. That's planting seeds. Feed your network. Well, to feed your network, what you have to do is show yourself as a resource. So you're adding to those connections you're beginning to make and the ones that you already have. How do you add to them? You figure out what's valuable to the person trying to connect with, and you figure out how to get that to them, whether that's an article you share with them, whether that's something you write, whether that's, hey, this event's coming up, you might be interested in it. That's feeding the network after you seed it. The next thing you do is weed the network. Now, how do you weed the network? Well, if there are people that you're connected with that are not reciprocating the same kind of vibe that you're putting out there, or even the same kind of value, then you over time distance yourself from them, or maybe even eliminate them from your phone book and your iPhone. Why? because you don't have time or energy to waste. So if you're putting things out there and you're not getting something back the way you would like, then I would begin to put my energy in other resources and other people in the network that are reciprocating. And then need your network. Well, once you've done the first three, and now you've got a asset that you've built, now you can go to that asset and ask for things. I don't ask people for things in my network. What I do is I make sure I'm feeding it, I'm seeding it, and weeding it, so that when the opportunity comes back to me to say, hey, here's something that's coming up, the opportunities actually start flowing toward me. So it becomes, hey, here's something going on over here. Here's a referral for you. I heard that this person needs a speaker. Hey, we thought of you. Hey, there is this thing called, Career Coffee coming up on April 18th. Do you think you might want to do that? Kind of thing. So that's how it becomes a part of your everyday, way of networking. So I have a little guide that goes into it a little bit more, and I put that link in the chat for you if you want to download that. It's about 20 pages, so it gets a little bit more into it, a little more tactical. But that's what I do. I seed, feed, weed my network before I need my network.
David, I love that. I don't know if you can see Marcia's comment, but she's a gardener, so she likes the seeding, weeding, and feeding. I am not a gardener, but I am an English major, so rhyming words works for me, because then I'm like, oh, okay, I can remember it. And Katie did give me license to jump in with my own opinions too. So I'll just offer up this. I do have a fair number of meetings with students, people changing jobs, that sort of thing. For me, and again, this is just my personal preference, I always appreciate the opportunity to have a conversation, because I just feel like it helps me understand better, like maybe what the person's looking for in their next role. Or I'm thinking of a recent conversation I had with someone, and he named specific companies, and I said, oh, I know people at those companies. And so like I followed up with an email saying, here's the folks I'm connected to, feel free to use my name. I would say a thank you is always appreciated so if somebody is helping you that way, make sure you at least let you know that you appreciate them. And I hear you too, David, like the flow, that really resonates with me. I feel that in my network as well. Marcia, do you just want to come off mute, honey? Because something's wrong with my audio. She doesn't like my audio. Oh, don't turn away. Okay, don't turn away. Face the camera. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, Elizabeth, I wanted to bounce this back to you too. So you work in marketing communications. How does effective networking look different in creative fields versus more traditional industries? Do they, or in agencies versus corporate?
I'm sorry, you cut off at the end. Did you ask if creative networking is different from, let's say, other positions in marketing communications?
Yeah.
Well, I want to dovetail off of what
creative industries versus more traditional industries, like maybe agency versus corporate, Katie, if that's what you're asking. So, yeah.
Well, I think everyone, I would highly recommend reading David's document, because I actually did read it in full a couple days ago. And I receive a lot of information from a lot of sources, and I found it very specific, which I think you always hear the word networking, but I think on a granular level to really understand what that means, because I get a lot of emails or LinkedIn requests that will say, Elizabeth, hi, I see you're connected to the chief marketing officer of such and such company. Will you make an introduction? Thank you. And that could be considered networking, but like I think what David said, and Leah, to answer your question, I think creative positions or, let's say account management, media, communications, whatever the case may be. I think networking is networking no matter, what part of the discipline you're involved in. But with creative positions, I will say the networking can be more like someone sends you a 60-second spot they worked on, or they'll say, I just won this award for Best in Show. What do you think? Or, maybe I'm like more of a creative bent, but I think at the end of the day, it's like what David said. Seeding, weeding, and feeding. Is that right, David?
See that? I know my marketing is working right there. Just the first time you hear it, you can repeat it.
Yes. And I think, where someone will send me a link and say, Elizabeth, my copywriter partner just won an award for this spot. I think they should be on your radar. Someone for you to keep in mind. They're really talented and they might be looking in the near future. So I appreciate that kind of networking. If that answers your question, Leah.
Yep. And I'll just share a networking tip for me. Maybe it's not shared by others on this call, but just being vulnerable. Like I find, I like both. I like in-person events and I like this. What I like about this, maybe some of you are doing this, is multitasking. And I might see somebody on here, okay, I'm not going to pick on Carrie because I don't see Carrie's last name, but I'll pick on someone I know. Dorothy Rand. I don't know Dorothy. What's she all about? So I'll be looking up Dorothy on LinkedIn. Maybe I'll even be sending her a LinkedIn request during this Zoom meeting, right? So I find these types of things can be very productive because I can like network as I'm listening to Elizabeth and David drop their wisdom on us. So if you're on your phone during this Zoom, I will not be offended by that. You go ahead and do your virtual networking. And we had a little conversation about this the other day too, is like, it seems like either the rules are changing or maybe it just depends on the age of the person doing the network. I feel like years ago, maybe LinkedIn, it was like, oh, you should only LinkedIn with like people you've actually met, like people you actually know. And I feel like for me, at least, I'm pretty liberal. Maybe I should do more weeding, David, but I'm pretty liberal. Generally, like if you send me a LinkedIn request and you look like a legit person, maybe you're linked to other people I know, I'm generally like pretty inclusive and like, sure, come on in. But I see some nodding from people on the room. So it seems like I'm not really offending anyone with what I say, which is good.
Let me, can I jump in right quick?
Please, yes.
There are just so many ways to do this. I think if you go back to that thing when I talked about feeding the network, I don't think people mind you reaching out if they're going to help you. It just shouldn't come across as I'm reaching out to you because I want you to buy from me. So if you're reaching out saying, hey, I'm reaching out because I see you and I see what you do. I'm interested. We have common interests. I'd like to be a resource for you. And you can paraphrase that. I know I'm talking to PR people. So you take that and you can wordsmith it and make it your own message. But at the end of the day, I'm going to be a resource for you. Let's connect and see if I can learn about your background, learn about what you do, and see if there's some common interest. I think people are more open to that than because I get those all the time. And as a person that owns his own business, we're trying to, at the end of the day, run a business. We're trying to make sales, but at the same time, it shouldn't come across as that. It should come across first as, hey, I understand you like coffee. And if I don't get that white chocolate mocha from Caribou, along with that coffee cake on Thursdays, there's going to be a problem. Hey, why don't you join me when I, get that white chocolate mocha, not from Starbucks, but from Caribou? Yeah, why don't we do that on Thursday? You be interested in something like that? See, I just did that. So, and basically it's, you're finding a common interest and you're trying to make sure that you come across as a resource, helping people be better than they were before they met you. You're a resource. That is why I accept some of those that I don't necessarily know personally, but then I follow up to see, okay, was this really a sales thing or not? And if the person now comes and says, hey, I got this thing, will you come by? Then I'm like, okay, I need to just not follow you in my network.
Yeah.
And go from there.
Is that an open invitation? David?
Mr. Sellers,
asking.
oh man, come on, Mr. Sellers. Good to see you, brother. Hey man,
Good.
we good. We connected already, and I do
right.
owe you a lunch, a coffee, a
Oh.
dinner the next time I'm in Minneapolis. So
Oh,
we're not gonna worry about that.
Oh, I'm just kidding with you, but I'll write it down. I'm kidding. You heard, I have witnesses. No.
Yep, you got about 20.
I'm gonna pivot ever so slightly from networking just to make sure, hopefully we cover all the topics that you were promised this morning, and that is diversifying your network. So David, you know, your focus on diversity in the workforce is so important. Can you share actions that anyone can take at their current company, regardless of seniority, to promote greater inclusion?
Oh boy, that's a loaded question. Let's see if I can give you a 60-second answer to that. I think the first thing you have to do is look at your personal circle. When you look at your personal circle, I want you to do this. Write down the 10 people, let's say, that are the closest to you in your personal circle, your professional circle. Then this is what I want you to do. I want you to categorize them by different dimensions of diversity. So categorize them by gender, correct? Male, female, basically what I'm saying there. Categorize them by, you know, race. You know, how many people look like you, how many people don't. And once you do that, you'll get a sense of what your current network is as far as how it's made up from a diversity standpoint. Then I want you to meet I said 10 people then. The 11th person that you should add to that network should be somebody different across all those dimensions in some way. I have, and I'm sorry, I'm transparent, and you did invite me. So I have white friends by design. I have several white friends by design. Why? Because I think that makes me better as a person with a worldview. Okay. So what you should do with that is look at the people you don't have in your network and try to find people along those dimensions that you can now connect with. The networking thing we just got through talking about is the tool you use to be able to diversify your personal and professional network. And partly, if you go into it from a standpoint of, I want to learn, or I want to be more educated, I want to be more aware of other people's, you know, plights in life, right? Which really leads to empathy, true empathy, where you can accept somebody for what they're going through and what they are without having to have an experience to tie it to, okay? Then you begin to diversify your network. It has to be someone not like you. And that's where you have the richness in life that comes out when you have that type of experience. I think I did that in 60 seconds.
That was good. Thank you for that. Yeah, and I like one of our Padilla beliefs is work brave. So again, I'll just be vulnerable and just share my own personal experiences. I'm thinking, Marcia, back to that Truth and Transformation conference that you and I attended in the before times. And during my almost 8 years here at Padilla, because of some of the clients that I've worked on, accounts I've worked on, DEI has become like a personal and professional focus for me. So what I do, it's kind of like the real life example, David, you gave of your, you know, LinkedIn connections or whatever. I saw a table and I think there was one open spot, and I think darn near everyone seated at that table, it was a table of Black men. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna go sit there. And, you know, I just went and said, you know, is this seat taken? They said yes. And I did feel like a little bit, I'm being vulnerable now. I did feel a little bit uncomfortable, like, do they want me here? Maybe I shouldn't have done this, but I'm like, I'm going to go outside my comfort zone and meet some new people. And they were lovely. So I think that would be just my advice, is get comfortably being uncomfortable. Oh, thanks, Marcia. Put a little chat to that the Truth and Transformation Conference. Thank you. Elizabeth, did you want to say anything on that topic?
I was going to say that with some of my clients, you know, in Minnesota, food, agriculture, healthcare are huge industries here. And there's a real push for understanding and connecting more to rural markets. So I get more and more requests from clients. You know, Minnesota, Minneapolis, St. Paul has such a robust talent pool in the Twin Cities, urban. And some of my clients more and more will say, I'd love to tap into someone who is living or working in a rural area for a different perspective on, let's say, how to reach rural communities with healthcare or food or broadband or different, you know, industries. And then also too, from a diversity standpoint, this is a really young industry, marketing communications. So I have clients that try to work to hire, you know, the over 40-year-old crowd or the over 50-year-old crowd. So diversity in age as well, because that is something that it is real. Ageism is real in marketing communication. So I try to cast my net wide with recruiting candidates for all of my clients with all of those factors and the ones David talked about as well.
And Elizabeth, I'll tell you that the ageism is real. That's why I started my company.
Yes. So
ageism is real. Yeah.
You know, there's a wide variety. So I try to interview 74-year-olds as well as 22-year-olds and someone from a small town and the big city. So, and try to really be open to any candidate.
Yeah, thank you for that. And Beth, thank you for calling out DEI for neurodivergence. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? So this doesn't become our DEI chat, because we're going to do that next month. You guys should come May 15th. It's over the lunch hour, free for members and students. I think $10 for non-members. But Elizabeth, thanks for calling out rural. I think it's interesting too, right? Like during the pandemic, when a lot of folks discovered I can work from anywhere, right? People started moving around. So that's super interesting to me. And, you know, one of my unpaid side hustles is gun violence prevention. And that work has taken me out to try and elect gun sense candidates. And you don't have to go, I live in Minneapolis. You don't have to travel very far to discover, like, people have different points of view on different issues once you get, you know, 20, 30 minutes outside of Minneapolis. So, but yeah, one last thing on diversity, and then I'll pivot to another topic is, there's only so much diversity that you can see with the naked eye, right? Like, you might look at someone and assume something about their race or ethnicity or their gender, but beyond that, you really have to talk to people to understand like that next layer, which is really probably the deeper stuff that folks hold dear inside. That's Leah's little TED talk on that. I'll give one other example, and I promise to pivot. This is a very recent example. Oh, we are recording this. Okay, I'm not going to say anything bad. There's an opportunity, there's a professional development opportunity here at Padilla. And while I was on PTO on Tuesday, there's this email sent around saying like, hey, here's this person that we think we're going to put up for this opportunity. And I happened to supervise them. And so when I got back yesterday and was catching up on email, I said, sure, sounds great. He's a wonderful individual. And just revealing my personal bias, I said, I also want to just make sure that we're giving a balanced approach, balanced consideration. And my bias is going to be towards women and people of color. So as long as we're making sure that, you know, that all of the professional development opportunities aren't just going to the white men, I just put that out there. And I haven't even caught up this morning yet on emails I received overnight, but I know that I received emails from 2 female colleagues that said, yep, we're with you. So was that a professionally smart move to say that out loud? I don't know. We'll find out. I'll keep you all posted.
Well, can I do something here?
Sure.
something you said, and I think I can tie just about everything we just talked about into maybe a point that I think everyone can walk away from this session with. And
Yeah.
that's this. You said you had a side hustle that you didn't get paid for with gun violence. Okay. So here's my free $1,000 a minute consulting that I'm going to give to you that's going to result in your life changing. Y'all ready for that?
Woo!
Very
This is
simple.
exciting.
Very simple. Yeah, I had to tee it up.
Okay.
I had to tee it up. I
Yeah.
know who I'm talking to.
Wow.
Know who I'm talking to. So here's what it is. If there is any skill that you want to add to your skill set, to your quiver, to your toolbox, create a side hustle around that skill.
Love that.
There you go. I'll give
Yes.
you, it's in point. So when we start talking about, speaking or consulting or all these other things, when I started, you told them in my bio, I've got 18 years of adjunct work. Let me tell you how I got it. I had gotten my, or I had finished worked on my MBA, and I said, you know what? One of the things I don't do that I would like to be able to do is this kind of thing. Get in front of a lot of people I don't know and be very confident and strong in what I say and to be very engaging with the audience. I said, how do I do that? I said, well, I could go and try to figure out how to do like the public speaking thing and get on the association. I said, nah, that's too much for me. I said, you know what? What would happen if I got in a classroom or got in a situation where I could teach something? Well, that would allow me to get in front of people on a regular basis. It would allow me to prepare material. It would allow me to work on public speaking. All those skill things that we talked about, I could do it in a side hustle. So I started my work at Northwestern College, which I think now is the University of Northwestern in St. Paul, and in 2005. And then from there, I ended up teaching at Hamline University, which I don't have it up on my wall here. I just got through decorating. I want y'all to see my little office here. But my Teacher of the Year award came later. I've taught at the Carlson School. I've taught at Bethel. I'm on the board of trustees and the foundation at Bethel University. I've taught at the University of Phoenix. Just through that whole little idea of the next time I'm on a Zoom call, even though Zoom wasn't invented then, I want to be confident in being able to speak and to convey my ideas and engage people and make sure people are getting some value out of what I said. So my thing is, if you don't have a side hustle, get one. I advise all my clients, all my candidates, all my executives, I don't care if you're CEO or what, there is something you need to work on that you could package in a side hustle. And that side hustle will help you with professional development. Now, if you get paid from it, that's an extra benefit. And I'm not saying don't do it if you don't get paid. I'm saying there could be opportunities where you could actually make some good side money. But
Yeah.
the idea is go into it with, I don't know how to do something and my current job will not allow me to do it. Not from a permission standpoint, but because of the job itself. It's not in the job. And this is a skill I want to develop. And that gets to what my good friend talked about earlier when we were talking about, public relations coordinator before public relations strategist. In order to be promoted, here's another one for you. In order to be promoted, you have to do the job you want in the job you're in. You got to figure that out. You got to figure out how to show people that you can be a vice president of advertising in a coordinator's job. How do you do that? Well, get a side hustle, develop those skills, and then figure out how to pull those skills into your current role. Then people see you for what you could be versus what you were. There you go. I'm done.
Yes, no, so much wisdom.
Good.
I love all of that. And again, when I'm meeting with folks that are looking for a job, I will, of course, as a Minnesota PRSA board member, ask, like, do you belong to any professional association? It doesn't have to be PRSA. That's the one I'm most familiar with. But you're right, David. Experience is experience, whether you get paid for it or not, right? And For sure, I've learned things through my advocacy work that I can apply to my clients, because I've spent a lot of time over at the Capitol and I've been to hearings and I've testified and all that stuff. So I have some on the job training, not paid, but I have learned things from that that are applicable to other things. And yes, I love what you said about teaching. That's so smart too. I know Marcia's a person of faith. One dimension about me is I'm Catholic, and I tell people, if you want to learn about your faith, you become a catechist and you teach it to middle school kids, because you got to know what you're talking about, right? So teaching, I think that's a really smart recommendation as well. Okay, I am going to pivot and then we're going to get to your questions. Marcia pointed out there's a PRSA DEI ageism webinar in May, so look out for that. Kelly, I didn't mean to laugh at your comment. I just hit the wrong emoji. But yeah, okay. What did I want to say? I wanted to talk about advocacy. So Elizabeth, from the recruiter side, are there things you look for on resumes or in interviews that signal a candidate has good internal advocacy skills?
Very good question. I think I look at, their career progression and results and accomplishments, and then also how involved they are or are not. And it's okay if you're not, maybe in, the company's side committees, that kind of thing. Is that what you mean by advocacy? But I really think I pick up on the advocacy most in the interviewing process. How do you present yourself in the company with your clients? And then also in the interviewing process and salary negotiation, especially in certain positions. If let's say you're in media or account management, I would expect that you would negotiate your salary with my client. And we're looking for that because we want someone who has the negotiation skills that's part of their DNA in terms of being assertive in that realm. Am I answering your question?
Yeah, and I'll just, and Katie, feel free to chime in because Katie wrote the questions. I'm just asking them. But again, I'll share just to reference my previous story about this professional development opportunity. I said, well, yes, so-and-so would be a great candidate. I would be interested in that opportunity too, by the way. So some of us, you may be lucky enough to have a supervisor that is a really great advocate for you, and you might not. That's just the God's honest truth about it, right? Like, you would hope that your supervisor is looking out for you, but they might be looking out for themselves. So I would recommend being your, and if you work in communications, right? Like, maybe it feels self-serving to do it for yourself. Maybe you're used to doing it for clients, but you can do your own promotion. I think you should. David, what does internal advocacy mean to you? And what are a couple of must-know things about advocating for ourselves at work?
Okay, so here's the thing. With that, you just gave me an idea in asking the question and your comment. What I want to do here is I'm going to drop a talk that I did, a full keynote, as soon as I find it, into the chat for everybody. And it's basically talking about treating yourself as a company of one. And this is why I say this is advocacy for yourself. When you look at yourself and say, you know what, I am a company. And the reason I use that framework, as I'm looking for it here, you being a company means that you have operations, you have finance, you have marketing, you have communications, you have HR, but it's just a company of one, right? So advocacy begins to look at, well, if I look at myself as a company of one, who are my partners? Who are my strategic partners? If you think of it from a supply chain perspective, who are the people that are feeding me to help me become who I am, who I turn around and market to the outside world? Okay. So from an advocacy standpoint, you got to first figure out who you are and what you want to do and how people can help you do what you want to do, which then helps you define who you should be trying to partner with and who you should be trying to network with in order to get to where you need to go. So you can't just go out and just start, meeting people and saying, hey, I'm just advocating for myself. You can do that from a personality standpoint, just being a strong person, knowing your worth, and not giving it into this term of imposter syndrome, which I don't necessarily think is really a legitimate term. And I can do a whole talk on that. But you basically go into it and say, this is who I am, this is what I'm worth. Now I need to find people who agree with that. I have a saying, confidence is when you say you're good. Excellence is when people agree. So if you start with confidence, then confidence will take you places where excellence now starts to show up because people will agree with your confidence and they're not afraid of that. So advocacy is all in finding people who agree with your confidence. And then your brand, if we were going to go there with my PR folks here, your personal brand now becomes you deliver. That's the only thing you need in your personal brand. Those two words, you deliver. So if you delivers in your personal brand, advocacy becomes easy for the person who's giving up social capital to advocate for you. See, sometimes we don't think about that, but that currency of social capital is very important, especially internally. So if somebody is going to create an opportunity for you, which is why you need sponsors and mentors. Mentors can tell you, hey, here's what you should do, give you advice, but mentors don't create opportunities for you to do the side hustle inside of an organization to develop the skill that now you turn around and market for yourself so that people can advocate for you in order to go further places than you could take yourself. So that's why advocacy starts with you being who you are, knowing your worth, treating yourself like a company, and then finding partners who agree with your confidence, which now is excellence, that can say your name in rooms you're not in. That's true advocacy. I know that was a lot, but I'm going to give you this talk here and I'm going to shut up.
No, I love that.
That's
Okay.
very good, David. And I was going to say, like you said, knowing yourself and then just being excellent at your position, whether you're a barista or a public relations strategist, no matter what, I mean, at the end of the day, what every one of my clients is looking for is someone who is excellent at their position. Like fundamentally, that's it.
It is 9:16, so I want to make sure that if you have questions, you have an opportunity in the next 13 minutes now to do that. So you can raise your hand, you can come off mute, you can drop them in the chat, you can continue to listen to me ask questions. Just want to make sure everyone's getting what they wanted out of this. I see Dorothy with her hand up. And Dorothy, can you unmute? I think you can.
I can. I'm a solo practitioner, so all of this is helpful, and especially thinking about like your own brand, because I am, right? I have to work at that a lot. What do you do if you want to, we were just talking about like be really good at your job, but what if you feel like the current job you're doing, you are not getting the work that you want? So I have a nonprofit arts background. I would love to do more of that. I'm currently doing more resumes, and that work is great, but I don't want to only do that. So I am trying to do that, but like, someone who might say like, well, I was also home with children for a number of years, and I did significant volunteer communications work at that time. Leah, you know this, and I agree with what you're saying about experience, whether you've been paid or not. I am not making it through, however, when I apply to jobs, and I think that unfortunately my hunch is that like side hustle, the volunteer work that I've done that's significant is not as recognized as my regular paid work. Some of which is right now for like the last 5 years, and then some of it is like 10 years ago. That was a very rambling question.
Well, I have an invitation, Dorothy, and then Elizabeth or David, if you want to chime in. But if you're free at 4:30 today, you can join me. This is live networking, y'all. You can join me for this event at Westminster. It's related to a board I used to be on. And I think I was going to invite you to an American Craft Council event, but then they were charging a lot of money. But my friend from ACC will be there, and I could introduce you at that event. So if you're free at 4:30 today, I'll send you the info, and you can meet there, and we can do real life networking.
And Dorothy, so your interest is moving into more of a nonprofit arts role. Is that right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's what my experience lies. It's where my passion lies.
Okay.
And I don't know if you remember, we chatted briefly on the phone at one point, and so I'm just wondering about, when we say like, yeah, show whether internally in an organization, do the job that you want. Well, when you're a solo practitioner, I can't do the job that I want because I can't, I don't have that work to do, right? Like no one's hiring me to do their PR comms for whatever nonprofit,
So from a nuts and bolts standpoint, I would, LinkedIn is really everything. I don't know if you agree with that, David, but everything is LinkedIn. So for 3 weeks, I would connect with the maximum number of people per day. I forget how many it is, with every nonprofit arts organization in Minnesota and Wisconsin. And then in 3 weeks from now, send out a LinkedIn PR blast about yourself and say, I'm a freelance, even though your ultimate goal is maybe to become a full-time employee somewhere, but send out one of those fun PR blasts that says, I'm available for contract consulting work. My passion is nonprofit arts. And then you have this new built-in audience of like, make a goal of like 1,000 new contacts on LinkedIn.
And just very overwhelming, especially when you're also trying to work part-time and parent. Like, I think I also find it hard to find the time to do that. Yeah.
Well, in LinkedIn, I mean, why don't you send me a LinkedIn message after this call and we can connect on this.
Yeah.
I do want to call out a question in the chat. Okay, Chrissy was laid off in December. She is expecting a baby late May. Congratulations, Chrissy. So she says, is it worth still applying now or wait until closer to the end of maternity leave? I'll take a swing at that, and then I'll let Elizabeth and David chime in. Chrissy, my one story I was going to share with you is I remember a colleague who started her new job when she was super pregnant, like 9 months, like she could go any day. And I think she put in a week of work at her new job and then went on maternity leave. So I would say, to me, it's kind of your call. Like if you want to get out there and make sure you have a job, maybe your goal is to have a job by Labor Day or whatever that is. If you have the energy to do that, I would go for it. Absolutely. But, or if you just want to enjoy your time with your new baby and just nest a little bit and then pick it up in the fall, that's up to you. But I don't know, Elizabeth or David, what do you think?
Can I jump in real quick, Elizabeth, if that's okay? What I just did is I put in the chat, as an example, said, hey, you should maybe create a resource that you can use to help market yourself. Here's the thing with LinkedIn. LinkedIn is everything. I agree. I do my work through LinkedIn. I find people through LinkedIn for my searches. I network through LinkedIn, but LinkedIn owns the data once you put it in. In other words, the other week, I think it was the other day, one of these was down. Facebook, Instagram, one of those. It might have been LinkedIn too. They go down from time to time. So when they go down, all of your data goes down with it. So what I gave you an example of is my own personal sort of branded site that I made. I would suggest everybody go to GoDaddy today and find yourname.com, see if it's available and get it. Even if you don't do too much more with it outside of what I'm about to tell you, you should own your space on the World Wide Web. Okay. So in this, all I did with this site that I built, and they're not hard to do. I do have 25 years IT, but beside that, all I did with this resource is say everything that I do, I'm going to capture it. Everything that I do, I put a little description of what I'm about. Then I have a media piece where every time I'm on YouTube, every time I'm in a talk like this, every time I'm on a podcast interview, every time I do something, there's one place that I capture all of those things, so that now when you start looking at, hey, I need to look for this particular job or this particular opportunity, you can send that to people, because remember, you're the company of one. So everything you do individually, you capture that, and now you have a resource, an asset, if you will, that you can now share with people that gets past the resume. See, the resume is great, but I think the resume is heading out like the dinosaur over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Why? Because if I'm getting 1,000 of them and AI starts to really get good, you may have some lost opportunities because of both of those things happening, right? We're starting to see some of that now. So creating your own asset, like I just showed you there, differentiates you a little bit. And it also draws people in to really see what you've done. So what I would start doing as PR people, the great PR people that you are, capture what you do every time you do something in something like this kind of website or some online PDF that has your stuff in it. Whatever it is, start capturing it. And then what that becomes is the thing you can market alongside of the resume. And people will see you. They won't just see you in a resume and have to guess. They'll see you in action. And that will be something that will maybe help you get some more opportunities.
Thank you, David. I'm all fired up to make my own website now. I bet Leah Condis is not taken because there aren't too many Condises. Okay, it's 9:26. I saw Beth asked a question. It was kind of answered in the chat, but I'll just throw it out in case anybody else wants to pile on, Elizabeth or David. Beth was saying, why are so many positions posted? Then maybe they'll do interviews. Then they pick no one, take the post down or eliminate it altogether, or they'll completely start over again with a whole other set of qualifications. So Kelly responded and said the hiring team probably isn't sure what they actually need, but Elizabeth or David, if you have anything to say about that, feel free to chime in.
So I used to be the internal recruiting manager at one of the large agencies in Minneapolis, Cullin McVoy, and then also worked at Ameriprise. So equal opportunity employers, which every company technically is, you must advertise every open role. And it must be at least on your own company website. So it's a legal requirement. You must advertise your position. But not every company can, let's say, advertise it on LinkedIn or Indeed.com or whatever, because it's very expensive to do that. But companies at least post it on their own company website. And we used to be always so busy, so behind. We would post a position and then we would forget it's out there for 9 months, honestly. And we would have hired the person, but the position's still out there floating. Or for commonly hired positions, let's say like an account executive, where you have a constant need, you want a constant pipeline of people applying. So, and sometimes it really is based upon the HR department forgot it's out there, or sometimes they forget to put it up in time. It can be really anything. But a lot of times they just want the kind of like constant ongoing advertising of promoting that they're hiring.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Okay, it's 9:28. Oh, go ahead, David. Yes, please.
I love her answer. Let me give you another perspective. You ready? I did a post on this about a month ago, based on research from, I think, CNBC. 70% of the jobs that are available are not on job boards. 70%. So whatever you do see out there, it's a fraction of what's available. How do you get, so that's 30% that you see. The 70 you don't see, how do you get to them? Networking. You get to them from networking and doing some of the stuff that I've been putting in the chat, where you think of yourself as a company one, you think of yourself as an asset. You have to now network to find those opportunities where people see you as the asset and they bring you in. Yes, public companies have to put those jobs out there, but other companies that are private, and most of them are out there and small, do not. So there could be opportunities sitting in organizations you would have never thought of, that you would never see because they don't make it to a job board. It isn't that they don't need PR work and communications work and marketing work and advertising work. It's just that they have their own way of doing their own acquisition of talent that more than likely doesn't mean that we need to advertise. They may have who they want in mind, and they want that person to have the job. Succession planning, talent mapping is what that might be. So those things happen so that you may say, well, man, they keep putting these jobs out here and I'm not able to find something. This is why. Because somewhere in there, somebody is saying, hey, I think I know who we want. We'll go through this so that we're following the rules and we're putting it out there, but we know what we want to do. So if all we got to do is advertise it and then go hire what we want, we'll do that. So just be mindful that that's occurring as well. But how do you cut through that? You just have to be the best thing going in the thing that you're doing. And you have to be brave in promoting yourself. You all are professionals at promoting other people, other companies, other entities. That's what you all do. Take that and figure out how to apply that to your own careers. You already got the tools. You already got the experience. You already got what would happen. Treat yourself as the client one time and then see how that turns out. And then that will put you in a position to have some conversations that you wouldn't have going through a regular talent acquisition process. You talk to the decision makers, you talk to the people who actually are the hiring managers, you network with them, and they'll say, you know what, I think I might need to give you a shot. Talk to this person, and then after we talk to them, let's see where you end up. That's how it's done today, especially at the director, vice president, and above level where I do my searches. That's how it's done.
I think that, oh, go ahead, Elizabeth. Last thoughts from Elizabeth, go.
Yes. Coming off of what David said, that's why, I mean, I say just make your bed in the morning and then go on LinkedIn and connect with 100 people a day. And don't even think about who they are. Just type in chief marketing officer or nonprofit arts and just click connect. Like let's say Dorothy, because most of the positions you're going to find out about are organically posted, like the chief marketing officer of the nonprofit arts organization. They have 7 people. They don't have the budget to post it on Indeed.com or whatever. And that person will say, we're hiring So that's why I say like LinkedIn is everything. Spend time on it every day, like a teenager on Instagram.
Love it. Thank you all for being here. Dorothy, maybe I'll see you later this afternoon. If y'all haven't linked in with me, feel free to do that. And yes, I would be remiss, speaking of networking opportunities, Minnesota PRSA Classics next month, May 9th in the evening at Nicollet Island Pavilion. Please join us for that. Dorothy, I saw you asked a question, so I'm happy to stick around and ask that question. I don't know if Elizabeth and David are able to stay too, and if they have to jump.
I have time, another 15 minutes if anyone wants to stay on and talk.
Okay, and if you have to leave, it won't hurt our feelings if you leave this call.
Thank you, everyone.
Dorothy gets the last question. Do you recommend calling companies to ask if postings are real?
I would not recommend that myself. I would just apply, and if it happens, it happens. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. I don't know if that's what you think, David, but.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think today you have to be a little bit more savvy, because here's what companies are doing. Companies are trying to reduce the talent acquisition cost. And one of the ways they're doing that is they're putting in sophisticated systems that start to have AI in it, so that they can sort through thousands and thousands of resumes at once, which is problematic to a certain degree anyway, right? So here's what I would say do. Along with having a broad network of people that hear opportunities you wouldn't hear, I would, if there's a target company you want to work with, I would go to LinkedIn, search on the company, then find out who works for the company that's on LinkedIn. And then I would try to network with those folks so that you could be connected to what's going on, so that when the opportunity comes up, you've got somebody at the company who may say, you know what, we just heard that we're getting ready to get a new person in this spot. You might want to, check this out, whether it's posted or not. And you may end up connecting with the person that's actually hiring. And then they may come to you because you've done something that they found interesting, or you've had a coffee or whatever it may be.
I see a question. I don't know if it's Kara or Kara. Okay, two questions. Says, I know the company might have some fellowship positions that would be good for a career transition to a different field. Do you have any suggestions on how to search for them? And I'm not entirely sure what that means. So if you're willing to come off mute, but maybe Elizabeth or David, you understand that question better than I.
I was going to say something earlier about this. I don't know if the question came up, but it was just something I was thinking about. The reason you do the side hustle, also in developing those skills, you want to develop transferable skills regardless of industry. Okay. So that could be any number of things. It could be how to, develop business, or like a business development type of skill. It could, you all are communication experts, so you kind of already got that going. But how else could you do some things in the communication space? Creating marketing materials or collateral, whatever it may be. There are certain skills that are just transferable, irregardless of industry, geography, whatever. Those are the skills you should develop through a side hustle or through some kind of professional development you do, so that you can transcend industries. I've worked in healthcare, I've worked in retail, I've worked in manufacturing for manufacturers, and I've worked in nonprofit. I've done all four of those industries just because I had, well, with my IT skills, I had system thinking, I had business process development and execution. Anything in that space that lets you transcend and industries, is being a project manager, for example. Anything like that will help you when you're looking for opportunities in a new field or a new industry that you're trying to pursue.
Kara, did that answer your question?
Yeah, somehow I can see that even your current position, I'm thinking about moving into more like a digital marketing, because my field right now is more like a co-director for a smaller nonprofit. So for me, it's kind of almost a restarting to a new field. So definitely I know I need to learning more new skills, and so, but I know I have a look into some companies. They offer like a 6-month fellowship position, which like an internship for more like a mature professional, like career seekers. So I know there are opportunity there, and it seems like a good fit to explore and transition. I'm just curious if there would be more companies who offer this kind of opportunity. If so, how do I conduct research? Because it seems like it's very hard to find just on LinkedIn and Indeed, job.com. But I really appreciate David's your insights, because I can see definitely whatever position you are at, you can build those skills you want to transfer into in a new position. But that's just to clarify a little bit my questions. Thank you.
And if you can't do those things in where you are, remember, you can go and work with a smaller organization that might need that help and offer your services maybe at a lower price or maybe even free, because when you do it for free, they're like, well, you know what, maybe we'll take you up on that. And then you learn by doing. You know, that's the entrepreneurship way there. Do it first and learn after you do it. So get somebody to give you a shot at a reduced rate or maybe even free. And let's say you do it for 6 months. Then you learn from your peers, you learn from the experience. And then after 6 months, you can say, you know what? You know what come on, PR people. You know what you do after you have an event or you have some kind of experience. You can tell somebody. I mean, that's what your business is. You tell people stuff. So you need to develop the stuff so you can tell them. So in this case, 6 months of experience. Now you can go tell a fellowship, hey, for the last 6 months, I did this digital marketing type of role and I had these deliverables. We helped these people. That makes you look so much better than the person who hasn't done anything like that. So I would give you that recommendation before you kind of get into the fellowships. Why don't you try to find some folks that will give you a shot to do the actual work? And then once you do the actual work for 6 months, then go back as you're looking for the fellowships saying, hey, now I've got something to bring to a fellowship that in this space.
And Kara, I see your second question. Katie or Izzy, this is maybe for you. Will this recording be sent later? I don't know the answer.
Yes, it will. We just need to edit it and everything before we can put it on the website.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. You got to take out everything I said.
Please heavily edit me. All right, everyone. Thank you for being here. I hope to see you again soon, either online or in real life. But hi, Carter Collins. Hi, Stephanie Jones. Thanks, friends, for showing up. Thank you, Elizabeth and David. Yay, you're so smart.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity for
Yeah.
just me to be me.
appreciate you guys.
Nice to meet everyone.
Yep, have a good day.